Hey, this is Christian Buckley with CollabTalk, and I'm talking today with fellow Office Servers and Services MVP, Mikael. Hey, good morning or good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon or good morning to you, right? That's all these time zones. I guess we travel around and we don't care, right?
Right. It's all the same to us. We don't sleep.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So,
well, why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah, give us some of your background.
Sure. So my name is Mikael Svenson. I'm a CTO at Puzzlepart, a consulting company here in Oslo, Norway. And we do SharePoint, Office 365. Basically, that's it. So we're around 30 people and we, do everything as long as it's fun.
Right. And I would say that, so Mikael's one of the people that, as you go to SharePoint Saturdays, like around Europe, I mean, you have attended a number of them.
Well, actually, I don't. So I think,
really?
People might think I travel a lot, but I tend to do like a couple of SharePoint Saturdays and then 2 other conferences, and maybe travel 4 times a year.
Well, see, I'm looking back over, having been in the space for now almost a decade, and looking, at the span of events that I attend.
All right, and then you tend to see the same people over and over again, anyway. So
that's right.
It's all a big happy family, right?
And I'm sure it's the same with you, but I do tend to see some of the people that, I talk online a lot with. I see people that usually live locally to me a lot more frequently out at events than I do.
Yeah, it's basically the same here. Well, that's the way it is.
Well, for a lot of people that are, somewhat familiar with Office Servers and Services MVPs and in the space, I mean, it's pretty broad now where they've rolled up multiple technologies where it used to be a SharePoint MVP.
Right.
And then there was this Office 365 MVP that they tried to move some folks over to, and now it's under this larger banner, which includes Exchange and Yammer and Teams and a bunch of other technologies.
Yeah.
What has you, most excited now?
Well, I guess most people probably know me for search, because that's what I did in the beginning. That's how I got known in the SharePoint community doing search. I wrote a couple of books. But I guess for the last 4, 5, 6 years, I haven't done that much search at all. And I actually had a discussion with a client today just for fun, and they were asking about search. So we're not going to talk about search today because I sort of don't do search, but still,
Is that because search has been solved and just Delve does it now?
So I looked back. So I had a post in April 2 years ago where I say I still believe in search, and I figured, well, maybe it's time to do. I'm not so sure I believe in enterprise search and SharePoint anymore. I mean, nothing happens. We can't really do what we want to do. So I tried to stay away from it because it's hard with all the modern search and few places where you can actually tune stuff.
Yeah, I guess there's more of an opportunity to go in and do that tuning and stuff if you have specific like records management or knowledge management deployments, and you have very specific workflows, processes that you're trying to adhere to. Yeah. But for most organizations, I mean, is it true that it's just kind of what's out there out of the box is good enough, or just that you're frustrated with the inability for the product to automate things that it should automate? And
I mean, they try to be smarter and smarter and smarter, but I'm not so sure. Basically, I mean, it's all focused around you as a person, but that might not capture the full intent. So we actually did a couple of tests. So I'm working a lot with groups these days, and now also looking into hub sites. So we tested on a tenant which is not first release. So if you searched for a news article, just in a communication site, no hits at all. If you went over to Delve, you could find the article, or if you went to the classic search. So there was apparently a bug, and then I tested in my target release tenant, and then apparently they fixed that bug, so the articles actually shows up. And then, of course, using hub sites, you can actually aggregate stuff up, and that's an ask we see a lot. I mean, you're on one site, but you don't really, you want to search more content. You don't only want results from that site, even though it says search in this site in the box. People are used to getting more results, and it's hard. Like, how do you go from local to global search back and forth?
Right, and it's the other thing that is frustrating is where you expect to have some of the machine learning kick in. I have a number of experiences where it's going and giving me these default, and it's surfacing content. It's like, look, that has nothing to do with what I need and what I'm looking for. When are you going to learn? I always go back to the same places. It's still not picking up on that.
Yeah, I mean, you have some sites which are authoritative, and then, well, maybe search don't think they're authoritative, right? So because someone might be using some other site. So I think it's always room for tuning search depending on the organization and the content structure and et cetera, et cetera. But I try to stay away from it because it's so hard. You have because you can't really, well, when we were on-prem, we could at least say, well, this search box goes to this search center, and then you had full control.
Right.
And now you have so many search boxes, so many search experiences. I mean, do you start from office.com, SharePoint.home? I mean, where do you start? You have no control where your users actually search from, so you have no control over what's being served up.
And apparently have no control over the topic that you want to cover because we went right to search that we're working on. Well, so what are you excited about? What you've mentioned groups, you've talked about some of the new stuff, but where are you really focusing these days?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot on provisioning with groups, meaning turning off the out-of-the-box self-service and providing a new self-service for groups with more control, basically, so we can have different types of groups. It might be internal collaboration rooms, but some might be typed more to projects. And projects might have more metadata. They have a definitive end date, or at least if the project is on time. And then that should go into the life cycle process. I mean, when the project is done, move out. So we try to like move out the documents which are still good to somewhere else, and then delete the group. So try to do more on the cleaning up and deletion of stale content, basically.
Well, that's been that's a really important area because it's been a point of confusion for organizations that think that, well, hey, I created a group. We were told by Microsoft we have all these pieces, but depending on where the group is created through which workload, what you get with that. So, I mean, there are options, there are controls there, and an organization, as you point out, may want to have it very scripted, a very, very specific process that depending on your permissions, depending on where you're coming from, but we want to make sure these standards are being met, this metadata is being applied.
And typically, and one client they want, so if you have, or if external members are in the group or people have shared a site with external people, they want the branding to be a red one, a red logo. If it's internal, then it's green. So they want the visual clues to different settings as well. And well, if you create a group out of the box, you will get purple or blue or green or red or all these different funky colors, right? So we want to set the default logos as some colors and just add some more settings to it. Also for public groups, one of the main issues is that everyone is basically a contributor. That means on the documents, everyone can go and edit a document. So typically, everyone becomes visitors. We enforce that. So I have a job making sure, well, if it gets moved up to members, we move it back down. Everyone should always be visitors. You need to be explicit members if you are to edit the document.
It's been interesting to understand some of the licensing differences. I was at the Collab Summit out in Branson, Missouri, talking with the customer about their F1 licenses. And it's just like, I'm not a licensing guy and I don't know all of the differences between the various SKUs, but these are the frontline workers, like kiosk employees that might be at a storefront and really just need to log in, see information, edit some fields. It's not the same kind of information worker sitting at a desktop all day long.
No.
And knowing some of those differences, and what you're talking about is being able to go and put in those kinds of controls.
Yeah, and today I guess a lot of those controls are associated with Azure Active Directory premium licenses, which might for some people be a heavy burden if you are to put that license on there. Well, but the fun part is if you do your own naming schema, like you have your own logic, making sure the names are correct, well, then you don't need Azure Premium. But if you want to use lifecycle policy, expiration policy, which is now in preview, then you need Azure AD Premium again. So, but I guess it makes a lot of sense. You want more control, more governance. Yeah, you have to pay for it. I mean, Microsoft needs their money from somewhere, right?
Right, and that's a difficult thing too, to go in and do something that is that a la carte model with complexity behind it. But I mean, that just comes up more and more and more, where people get sold on. I guess that's the danger of going and selling people on this future vision, and you automatically have to ask, okay, what SKUs are being used here? I saw this wonderful demo at this event, this conference. Microsoft sold me. but then what do I actually have today?
Right.
What do I need to go and get?
Yeah. And that's something I've seen at least for the last couple of years, doing more online and doing more of these small or niche settings you have that you need to know the SKUs, you need to know the licensing. You can't just be a developer or some consultant. I mean, you need to cover pretty broad set of features.
Well, that's and it's been even prior to the cloud. I mean, that was a problem with the servers versions of this. That Microsoft would go and they would highlight like every single add-on and show this continuum of capabilities.
But at least you only had two steps. You had like standard and enterprise, right?
Right.
But a lot of the feature were enterprise without people actually knowing. And then, well, why doesn't this work? Well, you only have standard.
Right. Well, it seems to me, and not being a dev and looking at, I'm not following up anymore on everything that's happening around this area, but it does seem to be, well, two things that Microsoft's trying to do is, one, give the ability for partners and for customers to be able to go and do the level of customization that you're doing. But two, but they're doing it in a way that can be supported as that centralized, platform or service that is under Office 365, which means that unlike the old days of on-premises where you have to basically go and customize and you're creating your own flavor of SharePoint, for example, to get it to do what you need to do. And the next time there's the next version, it's a completely different product and do that movement.
But I guess where we did a lot of heavy development before, so we still do a lot of development with SharePoint Framework to do small customization for intranets or collaboration sites, just small widgets showing information. So I think we still do, probably more development now than we did before we did online, but we do a huge amount of more adoption work. So we didn't used to have an adoption department, and now I think we're like 5 or 6 people doing just usage adoption, holding courses, just teaching people how to use out of the box and all the different products.
Well, and there's also, there's a lot of interest around the whole, the business app creation aspect of it to extend that. And so it's, again, things leveraging, the SharePoint framework, doing things that are within a supported, development cycle so that, you're not going to go in and break, the platform. But I mean, are you doing a lot of that kind of going in and creating custom business applications as well?
Well, not so much applications. It's more smaller widgets than applications. So we have, I've done a couple of applications for a client recently, a sort of a special archiving solution, tied up the groups. I mean, when you could highlight a document and then you could say, well, archive, and then it sends that off to the archiving system, which is required by law in Norway. So that goes, I think it goes through Azure and then it goes back on-prem to the archiving system. So that's actually, I guess a full application sort of, which is sort of bootstrapped inside of SharePoint just to work with the documents. So yes, I do a lot of development. I mean, I think I work like all over the place. I do architecture development. Everything is fun, so it's hard.
Well, I mean, but there was a lot of conversation. There was a lot of fear over the last, 3-4 years. Like, hey, a lot of these kinds of roles, these kinds of jobs, like going away. But
I don't think so.
No. Everybody I talk to, and I know like a lot of MVPs that I interact with, but are saying it's like I'm busier now than ever before. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, so I guess people who used to do a lot of server-side development and haven't done the migration over to JavaScript and TypeScript, if they can't make that transition and learn the new tool chain, of course it's going to be hard. But I guess at least me and all my colleagues, we love to learn new stuff. So we're just moving ahead on the train. We're just following the train.
Right.
I mean,
is the case with most people that are devs and IT pros. I mean, they're passionate about the technology. That's how they got into it in the first place.
Yeah, it's more about solving end user problems or making end users more efficient. That's what I think is fun. I mean, I guess when I was younger, like 20 years ago or maybe 15 years ago, I'd like just coding. If a customer asks, well, can I do this? Of course I can do this. Now I'm more like, well, why do you want to do it? Because I really don't want to code, because every line of code I write, that's more bugs, right? I don't want a customer calling me in a week or a month saying this doesn't work anymore. Right. So try to scope it down, but it's all about making them more efficient, and then more and more stuff is out of the box. So
yeah, and it's I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you can have the most beautifully architected solution for your customer, and if they're not using it, then you've not won. You may have gotten paid for that last project, but
and I guess I still hear people, at least on-prem, they have like deadlines for projects, but we don't really have deadlines anymore because we do so small chunks of work. So maybe like one sprint, a couple of weeks, we do something, we deliver it. and then roll it out, and then we do something else, and we just figure out new stuff to do. So it's not like big projects. We just continuous deployment and delivery, and then takes less overtime, less deadlines, less pressure, more functionality for the customer, I guess.
Right. Well, Mikael, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. And how can people, if they want to find out more about you, your company, how can they get in touch with you?
So they can look at my blog, techmikael.com or mikael.com, or just you can do my name in Google, like Mikael Svenson and SharePoint. You probably can find my contact information anywhere. I'm not hard to find. Yeah. Or you can go to puzzlepart.com and you can find information about what we do as well.
We'll definitely share some links out there, but thanks a lot for your time today. And we'll, I'm not sure when the next time I'm going to see you. You're not coming over to the North American conference, are you?
No, or what I tend to call the SharePoint conference for North Americans, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I won't be making you over to Mainz for that event either.
No, me neither. So maybe at Ignite, who knows?
Yeah, we'll definitely at Ignite. So anyway, it's great talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you as well.